I did a couple of stories since I finished the Gaza book. I went back to Malta and did a story about African migrants trying to get to Europe, and a lot of them end up in Malta. They don't really want to, but they're on these little boats, and they see land, which is the island of Malta, and after a day and a half or 2 days on the sea, they just want to land. Most of them can't swim, and many drown. So I did a story about how the Maltese are treating the migrants, or what they think of the migrants, how the migrants, the Africans there, are relating to the Maltese. And because the good thing about doing a story like that in Malta is it's such a small country, you can see the minister of this and the minister of that. And I wanted to get the government perspective. And as I said, I did a story about rural poverty in India. But now I'm trying to move on to some funny stuff, actually. I'm trying to get back. I want to remind myself why I got into drawing in the first place, and it was to make people laugh. So it's amazing how.
Well, that's funny.
I've stepped away. I mean, it's far. Life just takes you in a certain direction, and you realize, boy, that's not where I thought it was going to end up. But comics take a long time, so you just spend a lot of time doing these projects, and suddenly 20 years have gone by. So I'd like to get back to something else. I feel like, creatively speaking, I need something else for myself, and I'm a little tired of human conflict, somehow. So I'd like to move on a bit.
I think that's a good place to end our conversation and start opening up the audience for Q&A. Do we have a mic for questions, or people just yell them out? Yell them out. Okay. The gentleman in the black t-shirt.
Can we raise the lights, maybe? Is that possible?
I'm curious about your working method. For example, when you're in a far place, do you mostly photograph and audio tape, or do you take written notes, or do you sketch from life? And then also, when you're composing your work, do you write a script and then switch to being an artist, or do you rough out the text and the illustrations at the same time?
When I'm, the phrase is working in the field, as we say in the journalistic profession, I sort of behave like a journalist in that I'm really focusing on getting people's stories, taping as much as I can, especially with this last book. I felt like I had to get the words exactly right. This was very sensitive material. I keep a journal that's used for everything that's happening that is not an interview. Like all the stories between the historical stuff, a lot of that is written into my journal some hours later, trying to put together, watching a house being demolished, something like that, trying to put together that experience. I take photographs for reference. I only sketch when I've learned that sketching just takes too much time, gathers a crowd, so I don't do that much sketching. Some things I will sketch, for example, a checkpoint that you're not allowed to take a photograph of, or would be unwise to take a photograph of, I might sketch. If I'm going through that checkpoint, I don't know if you've all read the last book I did, but there's a checkpoint in the middle of Gaza, the Abu Huli checkpoint. And I went through that many times, and each time I'd sketch a little more of it to complete the picture, but it would have been dangerous to take a photograph of it because it was an Israeli military position. When I get... The difference when I'm working and interviewing people is I'm often asking visual questions, which a regular journalist, a prose journalist, wouldn't necessarily ask. And I have to do things that they wouldn't necessarily have to do. For example, if an older guy was telling me, and we sat in the school for 8 hours, I would say, well, how are you sitting? Because now I'm going to have to draw that. And I would have to visit the school, which fortunately still existed in the way it did back in the 50s, and take photographs because I know I have to be drawing that. So you're constantly thinking, what am I going to need later? When I am back at my desk, I write a full script, and then I start drawing. I do not storyboard because I don't want to set things in concrete before I start drawing. I need something creative to do every day, and that is to sort of come up with the composition of the page. I don't want to have done that 7 years ago Because then it's like I feel like I'm following, connect the dots, and I wouldn't enjoy that so much. But I find it's important to write a whole script, because otherwise you might end up somehow lost in the story with loose threads, and I need the whole arc before I can start drawing.